You know, all those things you're told will fix you, they don't work. The Bible, anxiety workbooks, yoga, therapy, meditation and prayer, hustling and grinding. If even one of these consistently worked, then you could just do that and feel better, right? But instead, you end up binge eating chips and doom scrolling at 11 p.m. at night, skipping that workout you promised yourself you would do, and going right back to feeling stuck. Now, here's the hard truth. The solutions aren't actually ineffective, but they need something else to work. And when you understand what that is, you can begin to shift and end up on a path toward freedom and fulfillment. In this video, I want to show you 3 big ideas that helped me change my life and get to a place of deep satisfaction. Now, the first big idea started with a simple meme I saw online. It showed a monk sitting by some water, and the caption read, "Relax, nothing is under control." Now, I love a good paradox, and this one was especially good because it really got under my skin. Whether I wanted to admit it or not, I was suffering from the illusion of control, which is the idea that if I plan well enough, work hard enough, or worry just the right amount, I can control or predict the outcome. Now, while I'm not much of a planner or a worrywart myself, boy, oh boy, have I been guilty of thinking my hard work deserves to be rewarded. Now, despite being a business owner and a creative person operating in the free market, I knew intellectually that hard work does not guarantee success. But emotionally, I hated this. I've spent hours laboring on work that totally flops. And then the next day I'll have an accidental success on social media, doing something that required no thinking. And we see this everywhere we look. The people who made millions selling pictures of cartoon apes in the NFT days. The guy who tweeted a screenshot of a spreadsheet and got a book deal. The influencer who gained 500,000 followers for filming herself cleaning her apartment. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And this emotional bitterness was causing me so much grief. That's how I actually realized I was in a mental prison. I understood with my mind that life was unfair, but I was angry about it. Why were all those other people more successful than me when I had worked so hard? It's like getting angry at the sky for being blue. And as the saying goes, being angry is like drinking poison and expecting other people to die. So the first big idea that exposed my mental prison was not actually relax, nothing is under control, but that I was expecting life to be something it wasn't. I was holding on to an idea that could never be true, and I was resenting it. And that's when I realized I was sort of in this cognitive dissonance style prison of the mind, feeling a strong emotional non-truth about an intellectual reality. The prison itself wasn't the truth, but my refusal to accept it was. And that taught me that mental prisons aren't actually built out of lies, but from truths that we refuse to believe. And that's a big part of why nothing works. The solution won't work because it can't. If you're like I was, your unwillingness to let go of the beliefs that shape how you experience the thing in the first place, that's just going to stop you. You can meditate every single day, but if you secretly believe life owes you a reward for your suffering, you'll be pissed when the peace doesn't arrive on schedule. Now, you can pray and go to church, but if deep down you think you're supposed to be in control, you'll still be anxious every time things don't go your way. You can read every book, hire every coach, do all the journaling, fasting, gratitude practices, breath work, hot-cold contrast therapy. But if you're doing all of it from a place of trying to force reality to cooperate with your expectations, it's just going to fail you. The truth doesn't care how smart you are, or how right you feel, or how hard you tried. Now, the second big idea came to me after spending 22 years learning one of the hardest songs ever written for electric guitar. And you might think, what kind of a lunatic spends 22 years learning one song? Well, when I was in my mental prison and had deep self-esteem issues, I would have said, obviously, a guitarist who isn't very good requires 22 years. But that wasn't the real truth. The real truth was that I spent 22 years learning one song because I had a goal that I never wanted to compromise on. I wanted to be a person who could play this incredibly difficult song. Don't ask me why, but it meant a lot to me to become that person. In fact, I've had a few life goals like this, like earning six figures by age 30, or starting a business and making a living from it entirely by my own hands, or owning a Lotus Super 7, or building my own recording studio that I'm sitting in. Somehow, these were non-negotiable for me in my life. Now, while some people have a bucket list of places they'd like to see before they die, I had business goals and a list of achievements I wanted to get done. And I've accomplished all of them, except for one, which I hope will happen next year. So about 20 years into learning this song, and I'm finally getting to a point where I could play it in its entirety without pain. I heard a podcast with this guy, Naval Ravikant, and his mental performance coach, Kapil Gupta, where they dispelled the myth that life is about the journey. And Kapil said, destinations and journeys, that's another lie. It's not about journeys, it's about destinations. Destinations require journeys, but everything that you do in your life is defined by the destination. Now, I realized that the parts of my life that worked, learning the song, building the studio, starting the business, those were the ones where I had a clear destination in mind. Not this vague, be healthier or feel better, but a solid, tangible, non-negotiable outcome that I cared about deeply. And the parts of my life that didn't work, those were the ones where I just was on the journey. No end point, no finish line, no definition, just endless improvement loops that went nowhere. And that's why nothing worked in those areas, because there was no way to tell if I was getting closer. And that made everything feel like a failure, even if it wasn't. So the second big idea here is that life is not about the journey, but about the destination. Without a destination, nothing works. One of the reasons religion works for so many people, including myself, is because it gives them a destination for the afterlife and criteria for getting there. Now, the third big idea is simple, but very challenging. What got you here won't get you there. Now, this sounds like a cliche, but it really means that you can't think, muscle, or hustle your way to the next level using the mindset you currently have. In the 22 years I spent learning that song, the first 17 years were spent brute forcing my own ineffective guitar technique that never would have gotten me to my destination. So I ended up going down to Mexico for a week to study with the song's composer. And he showed me a whole new way to play guitar. I had to relearn everything I knew about guitar, from how to hold the instrument to how to sit, stand, and breathe, all in the service of learning a song. The final leap didn't come from trying harder, but from letting go of everything I thought that I knew and starting over with a teacher who showed me a new way to move, breathe, and play. You can't just push through to let go of your mental prison. You have to surrender your assumptions and your identity as someone who has figured things out. Otherwise, even the truth can bounce off of you if you're not ready. If you're still clinging to a lie or an old strategy or a story that kept you safe, then nothing works. Not because it isn't true, but because the person hearing it isn't ready to listen. If you bring your skepticism to, say, prayer, it is very difficult, but not impossible, to hear back. If you're angry at the sky for being blue, what good is yoga? Now, I started this video saying nothing works, which is true if you're stuck on a path where you believe falsehoods and have no idea where you're going. Now, even if someone just smacked you in the face with the truth, if you're not in a place to hear it, then what good is it? What will it do for you? So nothing works if you're not willing to change. And the good news is, once you start to see clearly, you won't need as many tools, and the ones you already have will finally just start working. Now, in my next video, I want to talk about compliments. More specifically, why successful people have such a hard time accepting praise. So I'll see you there.